Smart 24, driving business.
Good evening and thank you for joining us. This is Smart 24 TV and you're watching Business Today. I'm Jorum Sonko with Winnie and Nakawuki on sign language. And it's the 6th of March 2023. Now we do kick it off with the Bank of Uganda Agricultural Credit Facility, which has been undermined by low uptake. In 2021, the Small Business Recovery Fund was established, and just last year, the Bank of Uganda disbursed 751 billion to realize the intended goal. However, progress of respective projects under the Agricultural Credit Facility is believed to be hindered by the low uptake of funds due to strict collateral requirements. Pedison Mombere reports.
Following the distress caused by the COVID-19 pandemic, government established a Small Business Recovery Fund in 2021. Through the central bank, in conjunction with participating financial institutions, liquidity has been availed for agricultural enterprises. According to the Deputy Governor, Bank of Uganda, Michael Ating Ego, 751 billion has so far been disbursed under the Agricultural Credit Facility. Uptake of the fund is, however, still low due to strict collateral requirements.
So, despite the scheme's success, it has not yet reached its full potential due to several challenges. This includes the fact that some participating financial institutions have a non-participation and low uptake. So I want to hear from you, why is the uptake low?
More limitations have been manifested in the eligibility criteria, where annual sales and assets turnover vested in the 10 to 100 million has found to be restrictive, and the non-performing loans accrued due to COVID-19. In consideration of the mutual covenants and subject to the terms and conditions, parties here to agreed to amend the Memorandum of Understanding, and the Bank of Uganda shall issue guidelines to clarify on fund utilization to refinance existing loans borrowers may have with commercial banks, and that the fund can be accessed without collateral.
Well, you know that conventionally, banks, for you to access, you have to have a collateral, you have a land title. How many people have land titles? Even those who can afford to pay for that land title. It takes it's a tedious process. But the smallholder people don't have access to land titles, and so it becomes a challenge for them to access. If you don't have a land title, then you must have a building that you can pledge as collateral, or an asset that you can pledge as collateral. Now, those normally are things that can be able to be accessed by the medium to large scale.
We need to up the uptake of this. So you then recall that in March last year, to be specific, on 3rd of March 2022, as a result, the Bank of Uganda issued a circular communicating these changes, which have been neatly summarized by Richard, the Executive Director of Finance.
From such challenges, Amendments to ease the uptake and progress of the facility among small businesses have been registered, revising minimum employment level from 5 to 2 persons maximum and annual turnover from 100 to 300 million and maximum loan amount from 100 to 200 million. The maximum loan amount shall be 200 million, among others. Pedson Mumbere, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now let's look at President Museveni and the United Nations agreement. The United Nations and the government of Uganda have reached an operational agreement following the Memorandum of Understanding signed to strengthen the operations of the Regional Service Center in Entebbe. This is at the backdrop of a previous proposal by the UN Secretary General Antonio Guterres to move the base to Nairobi. Rona Nahawe reports.
In 2018, the United Nations resolved to reduce regional operational centers from 45 to just 4 in a global service delivery reform. The regional base at Entebbe was to be moved to Nairobi amid its protests over the move that would see hundreds of Ugandans lose jobs. Just recently, President Museveni and the UN Under Secretary General discussed issues relating to Entebbe Regional Service Center with results yet to be understood.
From India, from here, and yet to Uganda, but it has grown. In fact, every year, through the RSC, we are not to the Indira Gandhi group. No, Your Excellency, writing and lesson commerce. Okay. What are they called?
In 2015, the UN General Assembly developed a collection of 17 interlinked global sustainable development goals to be implemented by the respective mission, designed to achieve a better and workable future for all by 2030. These, among others, include poverty eradication, zero hunger, peace and security, good health and well-being, quality education, gender equality, clean water and sanitation, affordable and clean energy, decent work, and economic growth. The regional center would support UN missions in South Sudan, DRC, Mali, and Darfur. Over 400 jobs would be lost in the long run, and from the UN operations, different SDGs would be realized not only in Uganda but across Africa. Locally, efforts and footprints have been realized with poverty eradication, where poverty rate decreased from 24.5% in 2009 and 2010 to 21.4% in 2019 and 20. Currently, 25.3 million Ugandans are caught up in poverty and insecurity as the population soars. Food security as of 2020, 19.4% of the population was registered as undernourished, and stunted growth among children under 5 years at 29%. Only 26% of the population in Uganda has access to electricity, and renewable energy resources count for only 5% of total electricity generation in the country. A tangible arrangement between Uganda and the UN is expected to revive links and opportunities for sustainable and inclusive development aligned to the drafted development plan. Rona Nahabwe, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
And now let's talk wealth and corruption inquest. With Uganda's wage expenditure and corruption index exceptionally rising, doubt has been cast upon the means and wealth of public servants. The Speaker of Parliament, Anita Mong, in obligation to the Leadership Code Act, has today declared her oath to the Inspector General of Government and cautioned public servants that have chosen privacy. Samla Hanifa reports.
Uganda sits among many African nations such as Liberia, Nigeria and the Lord, with a growing corruption index and a larger part of their national budgets dedicated to wages compared to other development allocations. This has in turn raised inquest into the means and wealth of public servants and legislators. The Leadership Code Act of 2002 sets tone for public servants to declare income, assets and liabilities to the Inspector General of Government in a bid to fight corruption. The Deputy Inspector General of Government has echoed such needs usually within 3 months of assuming office.
And for breach of the code, failure to submit correct information is punishable within the law, within Section 6 of the Leadership Code. Where we see that there is conflict of interest, still again it is punishable within the law. Failure to declare interest, there are some people who have interests and they do not declare, that is provided for within Section 9. And then also acceptance of prohibited gifts and failure to declare the same to the IG. There are times when leaders do receive gifts of a certain value, and if it is beyond 5 currency points, we expect that that leader should walk in the light and come to the Inspectorate of Government.
The office of the IGG has also received the Speaker's declaration, which was demonstrated before press in her boardroom.
I have done it. Safe.
Speaker Anita Mong has instantly cautioned fellow leaders to embrace their activity for transparency because they are duty-bound to make the public know of their leaders' wealth status.
It's a very crucial thing that we must always be accountable to the people who gave us these jobs, and we must be transparent. I don't see why people should continue hiding whatever they have in other people's name. If I have a property which is in my name, it is mine, and if I can account for where it came from, I should be able to do that. The quest of accountability is very, very important.
The Speaker has also advised the office of the IGG to simplify the wealth declaration process, believed to frustrate those willing to declare and find themselves in the bad books.
People who want to declare, in most cases you find the system is down. The system is down, somebody cannot, it will remain hanging for almost a whole week. So you need to make sure that the system is always updated, it is always working, because so many people try to declare. And you find most people get frustrated because they cannot declare because of the system.
According to the Deputy IGG, 34,000 declarations are expected before 31st of March. However, funding has often irritated and hindered the process. Meanwhile, at least 45 leaders in breach of the law have been booked and their cases are before the Leadership Code Tribunal Court.
So when doing verifications, the challenges we have are resource related, because verifications need the technical people to go down on the ground to ascertain whether these declarations are truthful or not truthful. So this is where we require a lot more funding. Last calendar year, we did verifications of about 250. We had to cluster the leaders and say, well, we are now going to take accounting officers or heads of institutions, of ministries, departments, and agencies.
The month of declaring wealth is here. Over 45,000 declarations are expected by the end of this month. However, there are still some leaders who have still failed to declare their wealth to the IGG. Over 45 cases are with the Leadership Tribunal Court over the same issue. Sam Lanifa, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
Now, opposition members of parliament, in conjunction with the civil society budget advocacy group, CSBAG, have called upon government to consider changing its approach to spending. In light of this, they have proposed alternative budget priorities with a focus on stimulating economic growth and addressing pressing social issues. Martha Nimsima reports more on the alternative budget priorities.
Uganda's upcoming budget is expected to hit 50 trillion shillings, an upgrade from the previous budgets dating back to the 1940s and currently carried on a deficit approach. With the growing external and internal financing, experts and legislators have advised government to consider reforming the budget framework paper, realign budget priorities with development goals, and widen avenues for improving accountability. This is expected to improve budget execution, promote accountability, and ensure effective and inclusive implementation of alternative priorities.
Can we look at reforming the budget process, especially the budget framework paper? I have always found that reviewing the budget framework paper is really a wastage of time. Sectors have just started implementing in June, and the first budget code structure comes immediately, and you expect them to produce a draft budget by December. Not only that, as Parliament and Uganda, you are supposed to debate this budget within 30 days. But also is that these sectors have not even shown you their performance for the last half of the year.
According to Honorable Matthias Mpuga, leader of opposition, government programs should correspond with the National Development Plan, which outlines the country's development priorities and provides a roadmap for achieving the desired goals. It is therefore essential that government programs are aligned with the plan to ensure effective implementation and execution.
Key sectoral objectives, and we think that is acceptable. But when it came to implementation, we are saying that the government priorities are not actually what they are funding. And that raises questions whether there is sync between NDB3 and the government proposal through the program-based budgeting. Take an example of the propositions for the next financial year, where URA is anticipating to collect 3 trillion extra domestic revenue. We are saying that's a good thing, but can you give us an elaborate study as to where and how you're going to be able to raise that revenue?
Honorable Jessica Bagala, woman MP Mitiana District, underscores that a human rights-based approach should be adopted while budgeting to ensure that budgetary allocations are not only guided by financial considerations, but also guided by human rights principles. This approach ensures that resources are directed towards addressing the needs of the most vulnerable and marginalized populations.
The opposition, we are going to advance a human rights approach to budgeting, because we think if you don't think about the rights of Ugandans, then Ugandans may not be able to benefit from the budget. And we've looked at a number of issues. Today we are here to look at it, and we'll give you a final product on 30th of March as the opposition. We are going to have our own conference, and Ugandans will be able to judge, Ugandans will be able to assess what we would have been able to offer to them. And this is based on their rights.
With the financial 2023-2024 budget framework paper currently drafted, it remains to be seen whether these alternative priorities will be reflected in the final document. Nevertheless, opposition leaders have proposed a human-based approach while preparing the country's spending, sparking an important debate about the country's spending priorities and underscoring the need for transparency and accountability in the budgeting process. Mathani Msima, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now away from that, let's talk youth entrepreneurship financing. As government has urged the youth to exploit government programs such as Emyoga, Youth Venture Capital Fund, and the Parish Development Model to achieve wealth. In the same spirit, 10 acres of land have been gazetted in industrial parks tailored for small and medium enterprises to freely support incubation. And Naomi Mutumba reports.
He said that the government decided to switch to program-based budgeting in order to address the inefficiencies that have been observed with the sectoral approach. Under the old system, funds were allocated to sectors without any clear indication of how they would be used. As a result, there were cases of funds being misused or underutilized. The new approach enables better tracking of funds and ensures that they are used for their intended purpose.
When we were implementing the budget along the sector approach, we had sector working groups, but in most cases they were not working. They were not really performing what they were supposed to do. You find you are under sector, but a vote is more powerful than the head of the sector. Because maybe because they can approach the high offices and get a higher budget, we could make them easily.
Is the silo way of doing business in the government, uncoordinated, mandate kind of bias and mandate wars, where institutions in the government, ministries, departments, agencies, local governments, those commissions and authorities that you know of, so many of them, we are having and still have this weakness of thinking about their own mandates.
Mr. Ngovi believes that this approach shall improve the effectiveness of government spending by ensuring that resources are allocated to programs that deliver the most impact, because it will make it possible to easily identify priority areas and finance them accordingly.
We finance the priorities by repurposing the budget. by moving the budget away from those areas which have ceased to be the priority. They could have been priorities. Like a year ago, priority number 1 was to keep Ugandans alive from the impact of COVID. Ugandans shouldn't die. So money moved from other sectors to health and security. Now, COVID has gone. Okay, we may say they haven't declared that it has gone, but we know, you can see here, a few months ago we couldn't be in this tent the way we are. So COVID has gone down, okay. So should now Ministry of Health retain all the resources that we gave it to fight COVID? No, resources should move now to where the priorities are.
Focusing on specific programs and initiatives will help address inefficiencies and promote collaboration between sectors. It will help improve transparency and accountability. It will be interesting to see how the implementation of this new approach unfolds and impacts Uganda's economy in the years to come. Bronia Katsime, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, now apologies for that particular report. Now that report was regarding the reversing of the budget approach, where government has moved to explicitly confirm the shift from sector to the program-based budget approach, where the PSST Ramadan Gobi expressed the commitment as a means to aid allocation of funds to only specific areas of need as opposed to the entire sectors. Now let's look at the youth entrepreneurship financing, where government has urged the youth to exploit government programs such as the Myoga Youth Venture Capital Fund and the Hash Development Model to achieve wealth. In the same spirit, 10 acres of land have been gazetted in industrial parks tailored for small and medium enterprises to freely support incubation. This is a report by Naomi Mutumba.
A lot of valuable opportunities right here surrounding us in different parts of this country, but we are unaware of these opportunities.
Uganda's economy heavily relies on agriculture, which employs approximately 64.6% of the working population, with 63% youth. Agro-industrialization has repeatedly been fronted, expecting that if fully exploited, it can significantly contribute to improved household incomes, with a basis laid in the National Development Plan and 2040 vision of transformation from subsistence to money economy. According to Ramadan Gobi, the Permanent Secretary and Secretary to the Treasury, government is still dedicated through projects such as the Parish Development Model, which takes the lion's share of the dedicated resources.
They require us to connect very well with the people who are in wealth creation business or businesses, to be the foot soldiers, the champions of these programs. And that's the idea I'm getting now concretized everywhere you go. Instead of having government bureaucrats and politicians becoming implementers of wealth creation programs, we need to leverage the already, because already wealth creation is there. And that's why the GDP is growing. There are people who are doing these things. They are farmers.
Agro-industrialization has repeatedly been tended towards commercialization and competitiveness of agriculture production. In this drive, youth incubation centers have been designed to achieve agriculture sector growth from 3.8% to 6.0% and job creation, plus other targets. Household dependence on subsistence agriculture as the primary source of income is to be reduced from 68.9% to 55%, and an increase in household food security from 60% to 90%.
An incubation center gives one an opportunity to run a business in a controlled environment, so that when they go back in their communities, they can run that business. So while they are doing incubation, they are given a business to run. So they are learning, definitely. They can make losses, but when they make the profit, they go with it to become their startup. And definitely one of the things that we encourage them to do is to make use of the opportunities that government has put in place. We are the government, and the government is doing this for us, and we have a responsibility of growing the government revenue base.
And to the young people, I want to explain to you that wealth is in three forms. Wealth is in three forms. The first form is daily income. If you don't have daily income, you can never be rich. You should find something to deliver to the market on a daily. I'll give an example of a chapati seller. We all know chapati sellers, right? One packet of chapati, the flour, costs about 8,000 shillings. And it takes half a liter of cooking oil to bake it. And a pack gives you about 20 chapatis, the one we buy at 1,000. So 8,000 plus about 5,000 is 13,000, and you make 20,000. That is 7,000 shillings a day. So if you have 3 points, that is 21,000 shillings, and it translates to 600,000 shillings. So that is daily income.
To achieve the transformational goals, 10 acres of land have been gazetted for industrial parks tailored for small and medium enterprises, which can be freely used as incubation centers.
Every industrial park, we are going to put the SME park, and UIA and other partners, we will put the building, put what is required, tailored in that region. For example, with support from UNDP, we are going to establish one in Kasese Industrial Park. And we are targeting SMEs that are in maize value chain, cocoa, coffee.
Several opportunities presented, for instance, by the close to 1.5 billion people in Africa and a combined GDP of $3 trillion offered by the Africa Continental Free Trade Area signed in 2021, are all market complementaries for the youth to invest and grow the micro and small enterprises. Naomi Mtumba, Smart 24 TV, Business Today.
All right, and you're still watching Smart 24 TV. Now, we do take a break, but Business Today will continue after the break with the Coffee Court. Smart 24, driving business.
Family, he must have a maid because at our home we do not work.
Conductor Masao.
What? Obadde olobye ku simu?
Yamunange anti yo TV enkolera.
Nyumira omulembe omupya ogujjudde ebisanyusa omuli emikutu gya TV egisukka mu 8 n'egya radio nga kwotadde ne zifirimu ng'osinziirira wonna w'oli. Genda mu App Store oteeke app ya Yo TV channels ku simu yo olwo onyumirwe ennaku 3 ng'olabira bwereere ewatali kozesa data. Yo TV channels.
The taste of Uganda in a new international park.
What if you could boost your most loved entertainment?
We're up in the ante.
Upgrade your DSTV package and we'll boost you to the next higher package at no extra cost. If you're on Access and step up to Family, you get boosted to Compact.
You know what I mean.
If you're on Family, step up to Compact and we'll boost you to Compact Plus.
That's an absolute ripper.
And if you're on Compact, step up to Compact Plus. You'll get boosted to Premium.
It's gonna be lit.
Step up and we'll boost you even higher at no extra charge with DSTV.
Smart 24, driving business. Right now, we head to the Coffee Court. The Agriculture Credit Facility was established by the government to spark grow industrialization. This has evolved to include the Small Business Recovery Fund, which was established in 2021 following the COVID-19 pandemic. And tonight, Fred Makubia interacts with Richard Biaruhanga at the ED Finance Bank of Uganda to understand the progress and limitations so far. This and more in the Coffee Court.
My pleasure, and thank you for joining us on the Coffee Court. This is where we ask the critical questions, fundamentally questions that matter. This time round, we'll be digging deep into some of the critical sectors under Bank of Uganda. And this time round, we'll look at a fund that Bank of Uganda has set forward to help some of us who are running business enterprise that have been affected by COVID-19. And Mr. Bialugava, Richard is the Executive Director in charge of Finance at the Bank of Uganda. Mr. Bialugava, thank you for finding time to speak to us.
You're welcome, Fred. Thank you. And thank you to those who are listening.
It is my pleasure. If you don't mind, kindly remind us, what are your roles as Bank of Uganda?
So our role in terms of this workshop is to manage the funds that government has given for us to grant to extend to the business communities, those engaged in agriculture and those that were affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So we want to help them recover from that COVID pandemic, which was unfortunate, and also those who are engaged in agriculture, because this started in 2009. Banks were reluctant to lend to agriculture because of the risks that are there. And, you know, we depend on weather, and also there are other issues of pests and diseases that affect crops and animals. So the government put money so that the borrowers, the farmers, can access it at a cheap rate. Currently, we lend at 12% to those who are engaged in agriculture, which is much lower than the commercial rates that banks give. And so this has helped in a way to ensure that farmers have access to finances. And as you know, we depend on agriculture. We employ so many people in agriculture, about 3 million. But also, we are looking at ensuring food security for this nation, so that we always have enough food for the population before we think of even exporting to other areas.
Just to be sure, why particularly the agricultural sector?
Because, as I said, the agricultural sector was being ignored by lenders because of the risks of weather, of pests and diseases. So there was very little money going into agriculture. And so government thought it wise to put in resources so that we have enough money for the farmers. That's the reason why agriculture, because the other businesses are not affected by what affects agriculture. For example, if you have a shop, you are not exposed to the risks of agriculture.
Sure.
Yes, because if there is heavy rain, you don't harvest. If there is heavy rain, you close the shop and open the next day. So the reason was banks found that lending to agriculture, their money was not being recovered.
So we are talking.
And then the other thing, now we have given confidence to the banks that actually agriculture is a lucrative business, because the money we have been lending has actually been recovered. We have a recovery rate of more than 96%.
As we talk right now, how much money, to be particular, has been set by Bank of Uganda?
In agriculture, government has given us more than 300 billion as of December, 300 billion to lend. So what happens when we lend?
As of December this 2022. Oh, yes.
So what happens when we lend to you 100 million, for example, when you return it, we lend to another person. So the turnover is high. So that's why we are saying that since inception, we have actually lent 751 billion shillings to 2,970 borrowers because it is revolving. So 751 is cumulative. So when government gives 300 million, right, billion, the participating financial institutions give a matching fund, the equivalent. So if we have 300 billion from government, then we have another 300 from the banks.
Okay.
Yes, so it is 50-50 sharing.
So whom do you give this money to? You seem to be suggesting it comes direct from Bank of Uganda
Okay,
to
so what
SMEs.
happens, as I said, we have what we call participating institutions. These are institutions that are regulated by Bank of Uganda. So you have commercial banks, which are tier 1, credit institutions, which we call tier 2, and micro deposit taking institutions. Any of those that has a license from Bank of Uganda partners with us, and also the Uganda Development Bank, because it is regulated differently from the other commercial banks. So those are, we call them participating financial institutions. We have an agreement between them, Bank of Uganda, and the Ministry of Finance, the government, to participate in this project. And so when a customer comes, because they don't have accounts in the Bank of Uganda, they go to their institution and request for the agricultural credit facility. Many times we have challenges that some banks will want to give their own money as opposed to this. But the reason why we are here and why I'm here is to create awareness that when you go to a commercial bank and you engage in agriculture, ask them the government funds, the agricultural credit facility from Bank of Uganda, because it is at a concessional rate of 30%.
Haven't you come in at a very, very late evening? COVID-19 came in 2019. We are now in 2023.
Okay, so you see there is agriculture and then COVID-19. So the COVID-19 funds were given to us in 2021, okay? 100 billion from government. This is different from agriculture.
Okay.
So we are not...
No, but you can't separate COVID-19 from the agriculture.
COVID-19 and agriculture are different. Because COVID-19 is every other business. You are talking of saloons, schools, supermarkets, any business that is not agriculture.
Okay, so let's first digest agriculture.
And so we have finished agriculture, which is at 12%, and it must be agriculture on the agricultural value chain. Either you have a farm, you have crops, or you are processing something from agriculture. Okay, you have a maize mill, you have a store which collects say rice and maize. All that is under agriculture.
So you talked about the lucrativeness of the agriculture sector. Yes. How lucrative is this?
What we see is that the people who have lent the money have actually grown. If they had, say, I can give an example, if they had 40 cows, now you find they have 100 and they have already paid off the loan. So we have helped them to increase their productivity and increase their stock. So because of and we visit to see the impact of the money we have lent. So we have seen that the people who have accessed this money have actually grown in terms of the size of their business and quality. Because we are talking of even we finance things like irrigation. Okay. We do cattle dipping. So the quality of animals has increased. We provide milking parlours. We provide coolers, you know, and even for those who are engaged in crops, we provide transport. If you have a matoke plantation and you have challenges of bringing your matoke to the market, you can ask for a lorry, a fuso lorry, and we finance that one. We also finance tractors, you know, to make sure that people produce more and quality.
So if a farmer out there would want to have access to this money, what are some of the credentials?
Okay, so what they need to do is to approach their commercial bank. They must be having a bank account, right? They must be having some basic books of accounts, because we need records to assess whether this person will pay back the money. Okay. So they also need to have things like business plan, but also security.
So just to be, what exactly are you meaning by security? Because that's where land title, that is where most of us lose.
if you are borrowing for a lorry or a tractor, the logbook will be the security for that facility.
So if I don't have a land title, I know many of them will come to you, especially those that subscribe from the micro, small,
Okay. So we
and
have
medium enterprise.
We have small farmers, like in some regions, they group themselves together and they want, say, to buy inputs or pesticides. So we have a product which we call block allocation, which we introduced in 2018, where you do not have to have security. You come as a group, and then you bring chattels. We accept chattels. Chattels is like if you have registered your bicycle, your TV with the URSB. So we accept those ones, and it is normally based on the character, the integrity of the person. But because of lack of title and all that, the loan is limited to 20 million per person.
Okay.
For the smaller ones in villages, 20 million.
Well, those viewing us, Mr. Byalugaba Richard also manages a fund called the Credit Facility Small, of course, fund. That fund is basically for the businesses that have been affected by COVID-19. Why this fund as well?
Okay, so you remember during COVID, there was a lockdown. True. So people lost businesses, lost customers. And so when the economy was open, we needed to help people who had been affected. So a fund called Small Business Recovery Fund was set up by the government, 100 billion. So the banks put a matching fund of another 100, so the total is 200 billion. So this was set up to help businesses to restart.
To come to
life again. Yes. So that's because this one also goes to if you want to repair your taxi. Because it has been parked for a very long time, maybe it has gotten spoiled, no tires, no nothing. We finance up to that level of a taxi, border, K06, you know. And also what we are discussing with the banks now, because some of those people had loans in commercial banks that they had not paid. So we are going to give you money, some of which you can use to repay the other loan which you took before COVID, so that you can continue doing business.
Mr. Byalugaba,
every business that is not agriculture, small as it is.
I am glad I'm engaging you on a very critical subject.
Small as it is, even if you media, if you want to buy another microphone, another camera,
we come to you. We go to the financial institutions.
Then they send the file to us.
You see the challenge we've had, and good enough I have the privilege. I'm talking to the executive director. Usually, government comes out and pronounces itself on some of these funds, but I can tell you, having access to this money is another challenge.
This money is available. What you are saying is that possibly we have not reached out to everyone.
Exactly.
We need to do more of awareness so that people know their rights, that the government has put funds for them and they have a right to access it. If you are denied, you can write to Bank of Uganda that I went to this institution, they did not give me the money, and then we shall address your concern.
To be in particular, where in Bank of Uganda?
You can write to the Executive Director of Finance.
And say I went to Bank X and Y to have access to this money. And then I did not get this money.
You can also write to the Director Communications.
The same credentials I'm supposed to have with agriculture, the same credentials?
No.
What are these therefore?
These ones is specific because the small business is defined. You must have 2 employees. You must have turnover of 300 million. And so it is slightly different. But it fits all the small business, what we would call small business.
So research has shown, you said you have over 200 billion. You've only given out 7.
About 7 years.
Isn't this a shame?
People are not forthcoming. The problem is, 1, we have to do awareness. 2, most of our businesses seem to be informal. They don't want to approach banks. Right? Others fear that maybe when they approach banks, they will be taxed. So we have to remove the fear that people have. But we have lent money. You know, that 7 billion, some people borrow 200,000, 500,000, so the sizes are small. Okay. That's why the money, it looks like we have given little, but we have given very many people. Yes, we need to give more because this money is available for that purpose, to restart the economy and so that people can be active again. So the money is there. People are not aware. We have to do more awareness. That is for sure, to reach out to every corner.
So your clarity and assurance that this money has already been posted to the commercial banks?
We don't post it to the commercial banks. When your file comes, right, say you want 100 million, for example.
How does my file come to Bank of Uganda?
Because the money for government is in Bank of Uganda.
But my relationship with you is through commercial banks.
Yes, that is true. So the commercial bank will send your file to us. Once we see that it meets the criteria, we give them the 50 million, they give you the 50, you get 100. In fact, for this one, once the commercial bank
bureaucracy is exactly what I was
the commercial
about.
bank is happy, right? For the small business recovery fund, they disburse immediately. Then we reimburse them. They give you the money.
That bureaucracy, Mr. Byarugaba, is exactly what we keep talking about. You go to commercial banks, you wait for Bank of Uganda.
You cannot,
at the end of the day,
you cannot invite,
my business is dying out.
It cannot die out.
And yet the role is simply to help me recover.
It cannot die out. You see, Bank of Uganda cannot reach every corner of the country.
That is
the
true.
reason we partner with the commercial bank is that they are spread. They are everywhere, and they know the customer. If we said everybody comes to Bank of Uganda to pick the money, it will not work.
You would
out.
cease to be Bank of
Because
Uganda.
somebody from Karamoja are now coming to Kampala to pick 200,000. They have spent it.
But
why
so-
don't they pick it from Finica, from Opportunity, from Stanbic in their region?
So if that is the case, that all of us cannot come to Bank of Uganda, it means now as executive director, your strength should empower the commercial.
That's why I've called them the inside here.
This is exactly what you're telling
Yes,
them.
that's what exactly we are discussing. We have called
Where-
them here
where the SM
to
is.
help the government program, because they also need to work in a healthy environment, in a healthy financial sector. If you are doing business in a poor community, I mean, you can't make it.
You would have the SMEs on ground as well, especially if you're discussing issues that pertain
So now
to survival.
you are coming to where we are going. We want to get the commercial banks to tell us what their problems are, right? And what their suggestions are. Tomorrow, we are meeting the head of the Federation of SMEs. I think it's called Mr. Wargembe. So we are meeting tomorrow to draw up a program to meet his group, the members. This is Kasita, I think the Association of Private Schools. There are so
There are
many
many,
organizations. So we are going to
federations,
meet
Kasita.
each of those, their members. Kasita will come with their members. We sensitize them. So how to access this money.
If I don't come through an association, it means I cannot have access to this.
No. The whole public, that's why you are talking to me. The whole public is free to walk to a commercial bank or a credit institution or a micro deposit where they have an account and ask for this money.
What is your anticipation at the end of the day? Because this fund has not just started. It is still in the pipeline.
This is 1 year. We got the money 2021. So along the way last year, we thought we should change some of the parameters, eligibility criteria, which we changed, and we signed the MOU, the addendum, the amendment. So that's what we are discussing. Since we signed the amendment, what has caused the challenge again for SMEs to access this money? Okay. So this is why we have this workshop, for them to explain to us why they are not disbursing the money.
Well, my pleasure this
so
time.
We shall meet those Kasita, those businesses, Grain Council, everyone. We have to meet them and sensitize them. We have done this, right? So we want to know why they are not coming. And as I told, it seems there is something that we need to discover. Either they are not formal.
It could be one of those. But I know when they come, they'll be able to let you know.
Yes.
Some of those.
And we should help them.
Critiques.
We should be able to help them.
Mr. Byarugaba, your parting shots on this matter as we plan to wind up this interview. Your final remark as well.
My final remarks is appeal to Ugandans to get as much information as possible and access the finances on the agricultural credit facility and the small business recovery, so that as a country we can restart the economy after COVID and also ensure food security and develop. We need a healthy population, a population that is financially active and financially aware. This is where the world is going.
Exactly, and as a business channel, we will continue to follow up this matter because it's a very critical and sensitive matter. Thank you, Mr. Byalugaba, for speaking to us, especially on matters regarding the development of this economy. He is in charge of finance here at Bank of Uganda. This is the Coffee Court, and my name is Fred Makubuya.
Of course, now that brings us to the end of business today. Many thanks for being part of the entire bulletin. It is a week of celebrating women and, of course, empowering the women in business and those in leadership roles. May it be fruitful for you and the rest of the people you share with ideas. I'm Jorum Sonko with Winnie and Nakawuki on Sign Language. Till tomorrow, have a good night and a good evening. Smart 24, driving business.